Hello everyone, I'm Sarah Colvin, and we have got a brand new show here at the Cape Cod Community Media Center. We are talking all about running here on Cape Cod, and as we're getting into the nicer weather, of course you can run 365 days a year on Cape Cod, but of course it's nicer to do it in the summertime. And I've got some wonderful guests for the beginning of this show. I'd like to welcome Pat Lentell of SEMC Sports and local runner Justin Neviackas. Pat and Justin, welcome and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
So Pat, this whole show was your concept, so I want to start, because this is the first episode, talking a little bit about what we really want to communicate. Tell me a little bit about your love for the sport of running and what you want to do to kind of get the word out about running here on Cape Cod.
Well, I was never a runner until recently, and I'm still not a runner, but I do run. And the whole concept that I thought behind the show was to promote running on Cape Cod and to look at the different aspects of running and the portions of athleticism and maintenance of your body and everything that goes with it. So having Justin on, who is a great runner and represents Hanlon Shoes, and then we'll have a yoga person and a physical therapist and other people that support athletes in their physical well-being. Was the whole idea.
Great, so we're really going to look at all aspects of running, so not just getting out there on the road, but all of the things that go into making sure that you don't hurt yourself and that you are running at your peak optimal performance.
Yes.
Great. So Justin, talk to me a little bit about your history with running. How long have you been a runner?
I started running quasi-competitively in 5th grade, so I've been running for like over 30 years. And through multiple iterations of taking time off because of injuries, I used to play soccer at a competitive level, pretty competitive level, so I ran to stay in shape for that. But it wasn't until I moved to the Cape in 1998 that I took up triathlons. My father did triathlons and I got the bug and never looked back from there.
That's great. And so you're coming off of a win at the Good Run for Good Works at Barnstable High School this weekend. Congratulations.
Yeah, haven't done a 10K in about 10 years. And
what was your time?
40:04.
Oh my goodness.
It's only 4 minutes off my personal record for a 10K.
So what's the average pace on that per mile?
That was about 6:27 pace.
All right, that's excellent. That's very good. I'm a 13-minute a mile runner at this point in time. I think the best I've done is 9, so that's not too terribly bad. So talk to me about why you run, what you like about the sport of running.
Well, for me, it's cathartic. Just getting out there, and I got 3 little kids, busy home life, busy work in the summertime, especially because everybody's busy on the Cape, and just getting out and clearing your head and. You come up with ideas on stuff that are either stressing you out on how to fix it, or you look at a different perspective, or you get inspiration on stuff that you're thinking about or trying to develop in your personal life or professional life or whatever.
Absolutely, it's really true. It's when you're out there on the road you really can connect, and it's kind of, sometimes it's surprising, right? It's like you'll be running and you'll be thinking about your run, and then all of a sudden your head will clear and all the ideas or maybe solutions to some problems that you're thinking about come to you, and you're done. You're like, oh, okay. That's better.
Definitely. It's almost like sleeping on it, but in a shorter amount of time, I think, in a lot of ways.
And so you're with Hanlon Shoes as well, and I know that Hanlon's has been running a very successful group running out of the store for a long time. So can you talk a little bit about that and kind of the benefits of running in a group?
So we have 2 groups, actually. There's one that I started a couple of years ago with Pat at Cape Cod Beer, and that's every Monday night at 5:30. They pick up again for the summer in a couple weeks, and it's just a big social club. It's like a social club with a running problem, or a drinking club with a running problem. We run 3 to 5 miles and get to hang out with people, and it's a way to keep you motivated every week. You're going to have these people that are going to pester you to go for a run. So
whether you accountable.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had like a tough day or you're tired from whatever, you got a group there to pull you along. And then on Wednesday nights there's a slightly more competitive. It's still pretty social in some regards, but some people do run a little faster on Wednesday nights. That they go to the high school in the summer and they do set training schedules and that sort of thing to get ready for races.
Great. And do they run on the track at the high school, or does it just start?
In the summertime they do at the track. In the wintertime and in the shoulder seasons they're at the store.
Right.
And right now everybody's of course getting ready for the big race in a couple weeks up in Boston.
Yes, the marathon,
Yeah.
of course. And now, have you run the marathon before?
I've done it a couple times, yeah.
My goodness. So what does it take to prepare for a marathon? That just seems, as a person who, like I say, 5 miles is my limit.
So
what do you do?
Everybody's a little different, but in my personal opinion, in order to get ready for a marathon, you basically have to run until you are just absolutely sick of running, and then you have to run for another month, and then you're ready.
And then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest? I know that Boston is, it has some challenges to it in the hills and the course itself. So, to you, what's the biggest challenge of running the Boston Marathon?
Just getting to the starting line, with the amount of mileage you have to do and balancing, if you're not like a professional runner where you have a whole team of support staff helping you get there, just between trying to get the miles in without getting hurt and being able to do everything else in your daily life, getting to the starting line of any race, let alone a marathon, is a feat in and of itself, I think.
So what would you suggest for someone who may not be ready for a marathon but wants to start running? What are your suggestions for, should you create a program? Should you create a schedule for running?
Well, if you have a schedule, well, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. So obviously having a plan, having a schedule, but talking to people that are somewhat experienced or have been doing it for a while, whether it's a friend or you coming into the store and we've got a history of running, getting as much information and having a plan of attack is great. All that stuff is online. There's tons of information out there on the internet about Couch to 5K and that sort of thing, but don't overshoot. The thing you have to realize is you have all the time in the world to do this. And if you say I want to run a marathon, don't say I'm going to be running a marathon this spring.
Right.
I find it takes about really 2 years to try to build up the endurance and everything to get there. And it's just, get enough information so that you know what you're doing.
Great. Can we talk about gear a little bit? Because I think that, there are some do's and don'ts in terms of what you should wear, especially footwear. So do you have advice on best practices for shoes and clothing to wear when you run?
So clothing's easy. Don't wear cotton. Cotton doesn't breathe, and that's going to be the instantaneous, get blisters, chafing, that sort of thing, and you're just going to feel hot if you're wearing cotton anything. So get the good athletic wicking material, shirts and shorts and socks and all that other stuff. So that part's pretty easy. And then you always want to dress for the weather. Obviously, if it's 20 degrees out, don't wear a short and t-shirt. But you do want to be cold when you start running,
right?
Because you're going to warm up. The footwear thing it gets a little more involved, but you want to make sure that you have good shoes. If you go to Kohl's and you buy a pair of $40 shoes, you're getting a pair of $40 shoes, and you're basically starting behind the 8 ball. If you go to a store like where I work, we have better grade materials in the shoes, and they have better structure in them. And you don't necessarily need to go out and buy like a $160, $300 running shoe. Most people, myself, the shoes I run in are around $100, and it's more than enough for most people.
Definitely, and it does make a difference. It's like, I think when I started running, I did the $40 Kohl's kind of a thing, and when I got a nice pair of a little more expensive shoes, and I went out, I was like, oh my God, this is a big difference. It's like new tires on your bike.
Exactly. I mean, we tell people when they come in, if they're running in cheap shoes or worn out shoes or shoes that are too small, it's like driving your car on a flat tire. It might work, but it's not going to be too much fun.
And how much use can you get out of a pair of shoes? How often should you be switching out your running shoes?
So there's some things that depend on that too. Like if you're a bigger runner, like I'm big for a guy who runs as much as I do. It sounds ridiculous, but I get 8 weeks out of my shoes. And then they're done.
Time for another one.
Yeah, but you get somebody who's smaller, they can get a little more life out of them. If you're running on the trails or like on a treadmill, you get a little more life out of them. A good rule of thumb is like every 4 to 6 months, though, for most people.
Great.
Unless you're training for a marathon, then it's a little more.
And how do you know when it's time to turn in your shoes? Like, can you kind of see wear on the tread, that sort of thing?
So you can't really look at the tread on the bottom because it's the inside of the shoe, the foam and the structure in the shoes wear out. They want to make shoes as light as they can because that's what people want. But people need to have structure in them, and that adds weight to the shoe, and they always are trying to balance the two aspects of footwear. But we all have those little aches and pains that come and go. When they're more there, it's probably the footwear that needs to be replaced. And it's just better safe than sorry, you know.
And let's talk a little bit about those aches and pains. Are there things that you should do, should you stretch before or after? What should you do to kind of keep your body in condition so that you make sure that you are not going to get hurt?
So there's a guy I used to follow. I'm a personal trainer too, and there's some guy I used to follow. He was Tiger Woods' trainer for a while and trained a bunch of professional athletes. He had a whole aspect of his training called prehab. Stuff you're supposed to do so you don't have to go into rehab for, you know, an injury. And it's a lot of massage and like foam rolling on the foam roller. And that stuff really breaks up the little injuries that you acquire when you're doing something like running or biking or anything like that. And you don't want to necessarily stretch beforehand unless you're having a problem, but you do want to stretch outside of running, because if you stretch beforehand, it makes your muscles quiet down. And when you run, you want your muscles to be turned on and active.
Sure.
So stretching after or stretching on a day when you're not running is a good time to do it. And then the foam rolling is just like huge for me. Like I got really tight muscles in my quads, and I get on that foam roller, and you know it's pretty painful at first, but
yeah, I've heard
you know,
things about that.
It helps. It definitely makes a difference.
Great. And are there videos people can watch for like proper technique of foam rolling?
Yeah, you just go to YouTube and just foam roll, or you talk to any, you know, decently qualified personal trainer at a health club, or one of the organizations that's big on this stuff is CrossFit. They do a lot of foam rolling before and after stuff because they get really tight with all the stuff that they do.
Yes, my sister is a big CrossFitter, and she is loves the foam roller.
Oh yeah, sport of sexy bodies and ugly hands. Yeah, I got the scars to prove it.
Very true. So Justin, what would you say what would you describe as your perfect run?
Perfect run? I mean, there's so many. It's for a lot of people it's individualistic. Like, you know, for me, getting up, like not necessarily super early in the morning, but early, you get the sunrise over the water, you know, and it's calm, no wind. That's a pretty good one. But I've had lots of, you know, metaphysical, existential experiences running. Like one of my favorite ones, I was running down the road that goes out to Squaw Island out there in Hyannisport.
That's a big hill there.
Yeah, you can avoid it. But I was running out there, and there was a storm rolling in over the water. And I had this like punk song talking about like a storm rolling in, and just like it was almost like my iPod was like, this is a song you have to listen to right now, and it happened, and it was just like one of the most like existential experiences of my life.
And it's amazing what happens. I mean, I remember I ran the Ragnar Relay a few years ago, and I was running through Barnstable Village at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was dead tired, and it was just the feeling of being completely alone in the dark, and it was springtime, so the lilacs were coming out, and so you smell the lilacs at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, what am I doing? Just absolutely amazing feelings. Are there places that you like to run? What's your favorite run route on the Cape?
So I do a lot in Hyannisport because that's where I work in Hyannis, and you got some quiet roads down there, and you can get out there. You get up to the Hyannisport Golf Club on like a full moon night in the winter when it's like completely calm, and that moon is like the size of like a beach ball. It's pretty cool experience. A real good place that I like to run is the Trail of Tears, and there's a huge network in Barnstable there of the Trail of Tears and some bordering trails around there that are pretty cool to run, and you get off of the roads. It saves a lot of the wear and tear in your joints.
Definitely.
Church Street is a good one too.
Oh, that is nice.
Over in Barnstable, West Barnstable, Sandy Neck.
Yeah, the beauty of being on Cape Cod, right, is you have an endless array of places that you can go. The last thing I want to talk about is safety, because I think that especially as we're getting into the summer season, there's more drivers on the road, more people that are unfamiliar with the area. So what kind of things should people keep in mind when they're running on the roads here on the Cape? So
you definitely want to run against traffic. That's what people expect, and you just keep in mind, never trust a driver. I've learned that experience in my life. But when you're running against traffic, you can see the people. You can see if they're actually paying attention, and you know they're in a ton of steel, and you got a t-shirt and shorts on. So always make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Flashing lights and the bright colors definitely help. Better an eyesore than a hood ornament is what I tell people. But you got to watch out for the textures. That's the biggest thing. Just driving here today, I saw 4 people just like, looking at their cell phones. You're like, come on. Somebody hit a house in Falmouth 2 nights ago, texting and driving in the middle of the night. So
don't do it.
Yes, it's horrible. Getting on like off-road is a good way to do it. You gotta, in the trails and on the bike paths, they just extended the bike path, and you can almost do like 50 miles out and back.
Awesome.
It's great.
Very nice. Well, so Pat, I know that the Race to the Pint is coming up in April, just a few weeks away, and you wanted to talk a little bit about that. So tell me what you can tell me about the Race to the Pint.
Well, it's the 4th year of the Cape Cod Beer Race to the Pint. It's at Cape Cod Beer, which is on Finney's Lane in Hyannis. It is a 5K and 10K. You take your choice, whichever one you want to do, and along with the run. And the run, the 5K goes through neighborhoods in Barnstable. It's a nice neighborhood run. The 10K goes through the neighborhoods also, but it also goes down by the beach, towards Millway Beach, and it's actually a very pretty run. And along with the run, we will have a band, 57 Heavy will be playing at it. And you will get free chowder or free chili, and it's just a very good time. We expect somewhere between 800 and 900 participants in the event.
It's one of the biggest races that we have here on the Cape, at least that I've seen. It really, there's so many people that come out to this race. And the weather hasn't always been awesome, Pat. It's not going to rain this year.
It's not going to rain. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be 60 degrees and sunny.
Beautiful.
It is pretty amazing how much beer brings people together, too.
It really is true. Cape Cod Beer does a good job of that.
Yes, they do.
And it's a fun event, and the people enjoy it. They enjoy it even if it is raining.
That's true. I can attest to that.
There is a tent at the brewery, or there will be by the time the race goes, and it's a great time.
And so is it a fundraiser?
It's a fundraiser for the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. You can donate when you register to the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition, or you could donate at the race. All the sponsorship money for the race goes to the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition.
Wonderful. And how do folks sign up?
They go to www.semcsports.com, and they can click on the link for Cape Cod Beer Race to the Pint and sign up for it.
Great.
And
looking forward to it. And Justin, you mentioned the run clubs at Cape Cod Beer. Do you know when those start, and if people want to participate, how do they get involved?
So the actual runs start April 22nd at 5:30, and they will go every Monday that is not a holiday all the way to Columbus Day. On Patriots Day, we were doing a cleanup of the course. I ran the course the other day, and there was just tons of litter. So we're organizing a thing where if you show up on Patriots Day to the brewery, you can go out, pick up some trash. If you bring your own trash bag, gloves, and if you turn it into the brewery, you can get a free pint of beer too.
Fantastic.
So we're going to do that on the run course will actually be at 5 o'clock on Patriots Day. We're going to have an organized cleanup, but
Great.
You can show up any time of day there, and they're going to do it all day.
Wonderful. That's really good. I think that's something that we notice when we're running, right, is all of the litter and the trash and the nip bottles that are along the road. And
It is a horrible, horrible thing out there with all that stuff.
Absolutely. Trying to work on that. Well, Pat and Justin, thank you so much for coming in. I feel inspired and looking forward to the Race to the Pint, and maybe seeing you at Cape Cod Beer for some Monday run club.
We'll definitely be there.
All right. Thank you so much.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. And you can stay tuned to the Cape Cod Community Media Center. We will be continuing our running show, exploring all aspects of running on Cape Cod. Been joined today by Pat Lentell of SEMC Sports and Justin Neviackas over at Hanlon's Shoes. For the Cape Cod Community Media Center, I'm Sarah Colvin.